Hey guys, Left Free Marine coming at you. Hopefully, going to kick you some knowledge. So I was watching this podcast the other day, the whatever podcast, I think is what it's called, and the subject of abortion came up. So guys, I mean, to me, and I think I've said this before in other videos, I guess I would say pro-choice, but not pro-abortion. Okay, personally, I wouldn't have anything to do with an abortion. Okay, if I were to, well, I'm older now, married, and so I'm probably not going to have this problem, but I would not promote if I were in a situation where I was with a young lady and I got them pregnant. I would not be for an abortion. But there are a couple things that kind of bother me about the abortion debate, and something that bothered me about a couple of young ladies that were on this podcast. Number one, essentially what they were saying, there are two ladies they were pro-abortion, number one, and even though they profess to be pro-choice, what bothered me about them is there was a pro-life conservative guy named Michael Knowles, who's definitely a conservative, and I don't necessarily agree with him on everything either, even though I have a lot of conservative views. He wanted to have a debate about abortion, which they were willing to engage in, but they started out by saying, I don't care what you have to say, I'm not going to change my mind. I had a friend of mine a long time ago gave me the saying, or told me the saying. It's basically, where you say, no, don't bother me with the facts. I've made up my mind. And that's essentially what these ladies were saying, okay? They didn't want to hear about anything. They've made up their mind. They're not going to change, right? Which to me, from an intellectual standpoint, is very immature. Not, like I said, from an intellectual standpoint, not very sound. You should want to have, if you have a particular viewpoint, you should want to have the debate with people, because a lot of times it's just going to strengthen your viewpoint. It does for me. When I have debates with different people, it just, 95% of the time, it just proves that I'm right, or at least reinforces my beliefs. Okay? But sometimes I might learn something. Now, it may not change my mind, but my viewpoint may change because maybe I wasn't looking at something in a particular way. Okay? And it doesn't necessarily change my mind, but it makes me a little more sympathetic as to why people might view it differently than I do. And if you're not even willing to do that, I'm sorry, you're just a lost person. I mean, are you that frigid that you can't even hear anything that might be different than your opinion? It just shows a lot of immaturity, if you ask me. And the other thing that bothers me about it is pro-abortion people, they're just not telling the truth. And this is what I have my own feelings about abortion. Okay, I think each individual state, I think, should be able to, as a subject of law, should be able to decide for themselves what they want to do. And plenty of states, there are plenty of states you can have an abortion. There's plenty. Okay, you can go ahead and go to, if your state doesn't allow abortion, you go to the state next to it and get an abortion. Okay, the women can do that. I don't see why the government should be paying for it. You're the one that engaged in the behavior. You're the one that made the mistake. Why should the government be paying for it? Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, we have to be honest about it. I'm willing to be honest. An abortion is a termination of a human life or a potential human life. You don't believe me? Look at pictures of a 1 or 2 month-old baby or fetus, whatever you want to call it, and tell me that that's just a clump of cells. Okay? If that's the case, and women should have unfettered access to abortion at any point during the pregnancy, let me give you a scenario and you can answer it for me. Answer it in the comments if you would. Let's say that you have a couple, whether they're married or not is irrelevant, but a couple expecting a child. let's say the father of the child is there at every turn, is at all the doctor visits, supportive, willing to provide, um, willing to do whatever it takes to raise this baby and to help the mother raise this baby as well. Now, that could be getting married, that could be a myriad of things. But let's just say that we have a supportive father, we have a supportive mother. Let's say the day before the due date, the mother decides, I don't want to have this baby anymore. Now, she's gone through all the doctor visits, whatnot, and she just decides that she wants to go ahead and terminate the pregnancy. Are you telling me that the father shouldn't have any say? I mean, he did everything that was asked of him. She did everything that was asked of her. But unilaterally, she can make this decision? Now, I understand this may be a far-fetched. I get it. Okay, I don't think many women are going to go through, have a supportive situation and decide to have an abortion, terminate their baby, okay, terminate their fetus or whatnot, whatever you want to call it. I get it. But you know what? People use far-fetched, people introduce far-fetched scenarios anyway. But I'm going to introduce that scenario, okay? Let's say that's the scenario. Are you telling me that the father of the child shouldn't have any say? I mean, you can't take away that the father abandoned the child, right? You can't say that. He's been there the entire time, right? Ready to have this baby, ready to take responsibility. But the mother of the child just unilaterally, the day before the baby is born, just decides to have an abortion, that she should be able to do that? That the father of the baby shouldn't have any say? Furthermore, are you telling me the baby that's supposed to be born tomorrow, or the fetus that's in the womb of the mother, isn't that baby? Are you willing to tell me that? I look forward to your explanations. This is Let Freedom Ring. I'm out.